All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show here on this Monday morning, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Remember, daily, we're brought to you by Johnson and Spillers. That's our dentist over here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Help if you need help with any type of dental needs, whether it's general dentistry or pediatric dentistry. Let Johnson and Spillers take care of it for you. JohnsonSpillers.com. They're on Facebook. Located in Gonzales and in Baton Rouge. It was a crazy Saturday in college football, maybe even a wilder Sunday in the sport as we saw jobs open and close. USC was taken by Lincoln Riley. Many believed going into the weekend that Riley was going to end up at LSU. All types of stuff to get to with our guy, Jake Crain of the JBoy Show, one of the fastest rising shows in a country right now as far as the podcast is concerned. This thing is on fire. If you are not following the JBoy Show, make sure you do that on Twitter. He's all over the place. He's got a YouTube station. He's online at thejboyshow.com. He's a part of the Volume Sports Network, which is right now a growing podcast community. And the number one source for college football is the JBoy Show. As we get to him again here on this Monday morning. Good morning, man. How are you?
Jordy, what's up, man? Doing good. Yeah, it's that time of year for craziness and the Houdini look left and make the elephant disappear.
It is, man. There is popular theory down here in LSU territory in Louisiana that Scott Woodward has had his guy in place for a while now. There has been all types of names and smoke, and people are going to be next. What are you hearing is the latest on LSU now that Lincoln Riley is out in Oklahoma and settled in Los Angeles?
Well, here's the way I look at it. I mean, Lincoln's a guy that's been pursued, obviously, for a while, over a multitude of years. And the person that I was talking with at the time, somebody that's currently a coach in the SEC West and a guy that I trust, about as much as I trust anybody, had a good feeling that LSU was going to offer. And what I want people to understand is if you go back and look at the clip that I recorded, and it's recorded, that's the beautiful part, is, we were talking about an offer that was made, and my thing was, if it's going to be 8 years for $12 million a year, I don't know how you could turn that money down because I don't think Oklahoma's going to match it. My biggest problem, I guess, is I didn't realize there were more suitors than just one. But to me, the thing the signal it sends, Jordy, if you're Lincoln Riley, and I know, and I'll talk about this on the show today, and people say, oh, well, it's an easier path to the playoff and this, that, and the other. But, man, it really does look like you're ducking the SEC. I mean, Oklahoma's going in the SEC. LSU's interested in you enough to, really pursue it. Man, to me, it's not a great look if you're a guy that's going to go in there and tell recruits, I'm a dog. I want to go against the best of the best. But, again, it is what it is.
Where does Oklahoma go from here? How attractive is that job now compared to LSU?
Well, I mean, again, I think that, the LSU job to me is just on a different level. I've talked about it a bunch, whether it's in-state talent, not having to worry about another state school, whether it's, having the last three head coaches that have won national championships. They understand it. They get it. We know, how important it is to people down there. It's LSU and the Saints, as opposed to Oklahoma. You have a state that doesn't produce a ton of talent. I think there's a reason that they haven't won in the playoff, and they've lost 4 times, really, to SEC schools, including LSU. I just think you have a better chance to win quicker at LSU.
When you look at the openings right now in college football, and Florida is just filled with Billy Napier over the weekend, they make that official. What does Florida get in Napier, and how do you kind of judge the way that Scott Strickland handled that vacancy?
Well, anytime you sign a guy that doesn't really have a lot of P5 experience, it's a gamble. But I have to say this, Billy has built up a lot of equity, as you guys know. I mean, he could have bolted multiple times to multiple, really high-end places, and he's earned the shot to take over a place like Florida, a place that you can flip very quickly. I mean, we were arguing, what was the better job, LSU or Florida? I had LSU just by a minutia because there's no Miami or there's no Florida State or anything like that. So, look, I think Florida made a good decision. He's a guy that checks all the boxes. I mean, he can recruit. He's genuine. And those two things go hand in hand. And he's really competitive, and I think Florida, needed a guy that had structure, a guy that, even though he's not so mature in age, Nate's really mature in the way he handles things, and he gets it. He understands the blueprint. I thought it was a great hire for Florida.
What do you make of the news? And Ross Dellinger was here last night. He reported it. We talked to some people around Napier's camp and have also talked to some people around Dave Aranda's camp, reporting that LSU has not made contact with both of them. Now, I know Napier is off the board. This is going back to the last couple of weeks. Does that lead you to believe that LSU has a guy in place, or were those two guys further down the list in your opinion? And if there is a name that we're not talking about, is there somebody in your mind that fits the mold of what LSU is looking for or could be the guy?
Well, again, I'm going to stand by what I was told from a guy that I trust. I think they really believed they had a shot at Lincoln Riley. And it obviously didn't work out. I think it's open right now. But again, the thing that I got to give Scott Woodward credit for is he's on his timeline.
Uh-huh.
He's not on my timeline. He's not on your timeline. He's not on the fans' timeline. He's on his timeline. And he has a knack for being able, keep things under wraps, even if they don't work out, and move on to the next guy. I'm very interested, when you look around the landscape, you got guys in the NFL all the way from Eric Bieniemy to, college, and Aranda, I feel like he's going to stick at Baylor. But, there was a lot of people talking about Luke Fickell last night. That'd be an interesting fit to me.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't see Luke leaving. Now, again, you never know in coaching, but look, at the end of the day, Scott Woodward is a guy that has done this before. He understands what's on the line. He understands what's at stake. And I don't think this is going to be some running around dumpster fire.
What did you make of the Iron Bowl over the weekend?
Well, from an Auburn perspective, it's kind of like the part on Billy Madison when he gets the kid to call Veronica Vaughn for him, and he looks at it and says that, you blew it. I mean, you did. You blew it. There's not another way to put it. You had him right where you wanted him. I mean, Jamison Williams was out for targeting. I'll say this. At the end of the day, winners win. That's what they do. And they haven't had to go 99 yards, with no timeouts, and you gave it up. And you gave it up to him. And that's the thing, you can play. That's the tough thing about football. You can play great for 3/4 of the game. But if you can't finish, it doesn't matter. And, I'm very interested to see if Derek Mason even called that game defensively. But it was amazing that last drive. They had put pressure on him the whole game. They brought pressure the whole game. And the last drive, when you had to have it, you got nervous and you played back. And Bryce Young picked you apart, and they tore you apart, and Mechie broke your heart. And TJ Finley, look, he's not ready. I don't think he knows what he was looking at. But the sad part is for Auburn, they caught all the breaks they could have in that game. With Jamison Williams going out, them bobbling the field goal, them bobbling the snap on 4th and 2. You had the ball on your side of the 50 more times than not in the second half with a 10-point lead. To put it very quickly, you blew it. And if Brian Harsin and Derek Mason and Mike Bobo and them don't finish games, you don't stay at Auburn long. You got to get guys in there with the winning gene. You got to get guys. They got to know how to win, because at the end of the day, winners win. And in that game, winners win, and the winners won.
Harsin was asked about his future afterwards at Auburn, as far as from his point of view. How do you like that match? How do you like that relationship after 1 year?
I think it's good, but it's 6-6 ain't gonna cut it. And, they asked him, and he said, it's something to where he knows it's not acceptable. But the thing with him now is you better finish with a good recruiting class, because when you were 6-2 and number 13 in the country, if you finished, with the 28th ranked recruiting class, you can be like, well, guys, look, we went 8-4. We're doing it our way. It's good. Now that you went 6-6, you better put your Stephen Hawking glasses on and go find some stars, or there's going to be some pretty pissed off people for a while.
How short's his leash?
If they go 6-6 next year, they're going to have to win something the third year. Now, I don't believe he's going to go to Washington. Look, I think Brian Harsin is a good fit, but at the end of the day, when you blow leads, it's very concerning when you blow leads like that. I mean, the last 4 games. I mean, I can't remember the last time Auburn lost 4 games in a row. So he's going to have to figure it out, and he's going to have to get some coordinators in there and get some personnel in there, whether it's from the transfer portal, because Gus Malzahn didn't do him any favors from a personnel standpoint. The offensive line's not very good. None of those guys will play in the NFL. You got to get guys up front that you can run the ball. You got to be able to keep Tank. There's whispers about him and if he's going to stay at Auburn. So, look, if it keeps going downhill, and I'm not talking about the run game, he won't last long, but I do think it's a good fit. But you better sign a damn good class, and you better finish games, especially against Alabama at home when everybody in the city shows up for you.
Obviously, it feels like Auburn's at the front of the line of this, and that's no disrespect. It just feels like coaches don't get any time anymore. When you look at the timeline for coaches when they get into a new program, they don't really have the time, like you said, if it's left in shambles and you get there. The fan base doesn't give you 2 years to rebuild or anything like that. So where do you think this stops? When does it come to a head where it'll finally maybe flip on its ear a little bit and fan bases start going, look, this is probably one of the harder jobs in America. You got to give a guy a little bit of time to be able to succeed, because it feels like everybody's chasing a ghost in Nick Saban and trying to find that next one guy that can change it in a year. And I just don't feel like that's the way college football works.
Well, I mean, you say that. Then on the other hand, they let Gus Malzahn stick around and go 2-9 versus Georgia, not win the West one time or make the playoff, and gave him, a $21 million buyout. So at Auburn, you're coming off one where they let a guy hang around too long, in my opinion. But it's just the nature of the beast. I mean, you're in the SEC especially, because, to me, you got to separate the way it's handled in the SEC and the way that it's handled everywhere else, just because the SEC is at such a faster rate. And, when you have this amount of money coming in, because, Auburn generates a ton of money. This isn't a mom and pop shop. This isn't Vanderbilt. You can win there. It's been proven. But I think it's also a reflection of society. It's not what have you done for me now. It's what are you doing for me tomorrow? And it's going to stay like that. So as long as, and again, let's not say woe is me to these coaches now. It's not like they're getting paid shekels. We don't have an Oliver Twist situation going on over here. Mel Tucker just got $95 million for 10 years. God knows what some of these other contracts are going to be. So, it's, in one hand you say, yeah, and you do, but on the other hand as well, you've got a transfer portal, you got a free transfer rule. So while I know how tough it is, and you got to give a head coach at least 3 years. That's the only way you can get your personnel in there and really make a judgment. With the transfer portal now and some of these contracts, people that spend big money expect big results. And I just think that's how it's going to be moving forward until the aliens come down and start talking to us.
Do you anticipate, which probably be sooner rather than later, bro, do you anticipate that Oklahoma roster being depleted following him to Los Angeles? I saw they already had three 5-stars decommit.
Yeah, very interested to see what Caleb Williams does, too. That's something, we kind of talked about with LSU stuff going on and with Lincoln. But now, look, the timing of this was also pretty interesting with the in-face visit starting and stuff like that. I don't know if Oklahoma can salvage it. You hired Bob Stoops to be the interim, but most of these kids right now don't know who Bob Stoops is. They know who Mark Stoops is, but they really don't know who Bob Stoops is until you have to explain it to them. So I think this is one of those, you kind of get in the battle, Jordy, if you're an AD, especially with the new signing period. Notice I didn't call it the early signing period because it's the new signing period. We have a December signing period, then a late signing period. You kind of get caught in the battle of, well, do we go hire a guy now to try and salvage the class, or do we take our time and make sure we get the right guy? And that's what I'm most interested to see. But I don't see how they salvage it, to be honest with you.
Jake Crain of the JBoy Show, host podcast. Make sure and check him out and follow him there on the JBoyShow.com. As we were telling you, is the website. You can also follow him on Twitter at the JBoy Show. He's got a YouTube channel as well that he goes live on. Lots to get to. His crazy times in college football. What do you expect this weekend in Atlanta with Georgia and Alabama? We'll get you out of here.
Yeah, I took Georgia -6. We're going to be at the Hall of Fame, so it's going to be a madhouse around there. It's going to be pretty cool. But no, I just think Georgia's about the closest thing to the model of consistency that we've had this year, and you blend that with an elite roster, and you get success. So, Alabama struggled. They've had one side of the ball play good, then the other side of the ball not play good at the same time. They've struggled playing complementary football. And, if you can't stop Auburn's pass rush, the absolute, monsters that are about to be thrown at you, I don't see how you stop them either. I like Georgia by 7 or more. That's why I took them -6 yesterday.
Yeah. Real quick, this is the last one, I promise. How big was that win for Harbaugh in Michigan?
Oh, it's massive, man. I mean, David Cohn, Arco has played quarterback at Michigan, and it's good. That rivalry needs to have parity in it for the good of college football. We talked about last week. He was telling some Ohio State fans, like, man, we really kind of feel like y'all need to win one eventually, to make sure the rivalry's good. And we kind of came to the conclusion that I guess Ohio State fans just want to feel something again. Well, they're feeling something this morning. That was huge for Harbaugh. It took him 5-6 years to do it. He threw a little shade at Ryan Day, because Ryan's been throwing shade at him for about 3 years. So no, it's great for college football.
I swear this is the last one. David Cutcliffe leaving Duke. Does that have any effect on the recruiting of Arch Manning, or is he done?
I'm sure Cutcliffe will be around with it. I mean, he'll be somebody that I'm sure they bounce questions off of and stuff like that. But look, this thing with Arch Manning, this may be the most publicized recruitment ever. But I'm going to say this. Arch Manning looks like a really good player. I get it. But that Walker Howard kid, I know they're in different classes. I'd take Walker Howard over Arch Manning.
10 out of 10 times.
I said that this week, and everybody thought I was a homer.
10 out of 10 times, Jake. I don't. I mean, that is spot on. Have a great week. We'll touch base soon.
All right, Jordy. Thanks, buddy.
Later, man. There is Jake Crain from the JBoy Show checking in on what is a very busy time right now in college football. Make sure you're keeping up with Jake and what he's got going on over at the JBoy Show, and follow him on Twitter at the JBoy Show.